it's maybe worth talking about a few things. I made this rig up for fishing up in the water, and they're on that one there. So Colin McKenna had started talking about up in the water rigs last time, but they ran out of battery in the camera, so we couldn't go here and finish it off. I'll show you some of the rigs here. These are the two that I've been using quite a lot recently. And I'll show you this one first. It's a really shallow one. Yeah? This is something that doesn't always work, especially in the depth of winter. But it's one always to have, because sometimes the fish will come right up in the water. So here we have, it's a 4x12 little wire stem float with a bristle, quite a fine bristle. And you see that there, that's set for what, 3.5 foot deep. This will fish 3 to 4 foot deep. And that's got the shots all strung out. Yeah. So that's the kind of rig Colin was describing last week, that will fall nicely to the water and give, really be quite light and can attract fish. Now sometimes you find with that's one way of shotting the rig. We started talking last week about that style versus more bulked. So this other rig is what I've been using quite a lot as well. This is a 0.4 slim sensor bulky float. You see the shot in here, you see it? It's got a bulk there and then a few shots spread underneath it. Yeah? So you can see that's set to fish 4.5, 5 foot deep. Yeah? And you can, that's a common depth, you can fish a bit shallower and a bit deeper as well. I've caught most fish shallow on this rig, just searching around, changing the depth, having a longer rig, not fishing too shallow. Because you can change the depth a lot on this, you end up with quite a long piece of line to your float. I think if I explain a little bit on the board, got a pen somewhere? That lighter rig, or any rig really that's dotted, you'll see that will fall very slowly. And it will go down, especially if you hold it, it'll sit for ages. Often you'll find some of the roach up in the water want to be at a certain depth. Yeah? And that's part of your job, to find out which depth they're most comfortable at. And the important thing here is to try and catch bigger roach, that size of roach rather than that size. So often that can fool some of the bigger roach because the presentation is really nice and you'll catch some bigger roach. But sometimes, and it happens often, you'll just get lots of little shrapnel. Will hit you on the way down and you'll get lots of silly bites here. The alternative is to use the more bulked rig, which, if you know that kind of picture, imagine that will go down, get down deeper quicker, and then you've got that last bit of fall, and often you're working in this sort of space, that's where you're trying to catch the fish. Yeah? Whereas this has got a long way to go, yeah, in its fish catching. This will often get you quicker to where you might think the bigger fish are, yeah? And it's got a little fall there. So sometimes it'll take you through the shrapnel, they'll get put off by the bulk presentation here, and when you find out where the bigger fish you catch really are, it's fishing more effectively, more quickly there. So that's the difference between spreading and bulking. Another thing that I talked about last week, this is the bank, this is you fishing with your pole here, is up in the water, often the fish will come to where you're feeding. If you're feeding here, this area here, either by some ground bait or loose feed, you often find that some of the smaller fish all concentrate in this area here. You often get bigger fish hanging, slightly bigger fish, off the back, away from it. So a tactic I talked about last week is actually, instead of fishing your rig there, is actually casting it beyond. Yeah? And that often picks up bigger fish. And if you imagine this is the bank here, you'll find sometimes that casting past it, yeah, will pick the biggest fish off. It's just a matter of, you don't cast it like a rod, just when you're putting your pole out and you get near the end of it, just lift it up and swing it out. So you swing it out a little bit beyond the end. And a great advantage of that is that when you swing it out, this is me here, it actually fishes itself coming back towards you because of the resistance of the quick tip. It's pulling against the pole tip. So it fishes very nicely. So that bulk rig, if you swing it out straight in front of you, straight away from you, will come back towards you under tension, yeah? And it fishes itself, it fishes very well. Another part of that is that some of the bigger fish often will get scared by your pole tip. So if the water's clear, or if you're fishing shallow when they're coming towards you, they'll get put up with the pole tip. So this will catch some fish that's beyond the pole tip. And the important thing as well is if you're loose feeding, don't loose feed way past your pole tip, because all it does is push the fish further and further out, and you've got to go further and further and follow them. Yeah. Does that make sense? Any questions on that? Obviously makes a lot of sense. So that's a few things about fishing up in the water. One last thing I'd like to finish on is a bit about, I've seen some people in the last few weeks when you're fishing long especially 14 metres, fishing with a pole cup, it can be quite heavy, especially if you've got a heavy pole. I've seen people dropping their pole cups in the water. Yeah? Drop the pole cups in the water. And sometimes you can't avoid it. It's unavoidable sometimes. But the worst thing you can do is then try and drag your pole back and drag your cup through the water. I've seen that happen quite a bit. I think there's 3 reasons that's a bad thing about dragging your pole back through the water. One, if you do that, the water resistance is something to pull your cupping kit off. I've seen it happen a number of times before, where people have done that, pulled the pole back, top 4 comes off, top 5 comes off. It's quite expensive. Yeah. Second reason is that it can disturb your swim. Dropping your pole in the water is never a good idea, because it can't be good for your swim. So you watch the top anglers, they don't drop their pole in the water at all. And the third thing, it makes you look like a right idiot. Yeah? It doesn't feel very good. So try as much as possible to keep that pole tip out of the water, especially when you're cupping, because it's a bad practice to put it in the water. Now that means sometimes that you might not have your roller set in the right place. I see people do that because they can't get their pole up. So it's important to put your roller far enough back and to your right or left, whichever way you're left-handed, so you can actually move it smoothly without having to drop your pole tip in the water. That's an important thing to watch. And if it means you have to break the pole twice to do it, do it. Don't just put your pole cup in the water and drag it back. That's all. So on all that, any other questions on setting up rigs that I've gone through today? No? There you go, very, very quiet, appreciative audience this morning. So thanks very much. Enjoy yourself today. Have a good day.
Thanks very much, Jake.